Well, hello, everyone. It's me, Matthew David, and got my coffee. Gonna have some late night coffee. It's been a long day, so I was starting to get tired before this event. And yeah, so let's see who's out there. If you're out there, just go ahead and say something. Make a comment, do something. Let me know you're here. Let's see. All right, cool. We got a hand waving. Perfect. So let some people come on here. And hello. Let's see. There we go. Now we got some people jumping on. So yeah, tonight we're going to talk about how to, embrace life fearlessly regarding your financial situation. Here we go. We got Bueno from San Antonio, Texas. Well, Bueno from Spring Green, Wisconsin. I bet you the weather's much warmer there. We are cold here. It's almost like winter is just right around the corner. I went out and did my run tonight. It's freezing, absolutely freezing. All right. So what's up, Matthew? What's up? You tell me what's up. Post in the comments. Let's talk about your finances tonight. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about your finances. We're going to talk about what you're afraid of. Talk about what you do with doubt. See what I'm saying? Because it all boils down to what you're doubting. You're either doubting yourself or you're doubting Satan. One of the two things. So that's what it really comes down to. And you can see I wrote something here that you're going to read. And what I did was I created a prescription for lack. So we have a prescription for lack that you can read now. And I'm going to read it with you. And I want to talk about it and, tell you some stories, etc. And I really, it begins with saying, like, where do you tap out? Like, I'm done. I can't handle it anymore. I'm tapping out. I'm out of the game. When does fear put you in a stronghold, and when does it get you to tap out? For some people, they tap out, if they go, let's say they have $500 in debt and their consciousness is bankrupt at that point, and they're like, I can't handle it. I can't handle this pressure. I can't handle the stress. And maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $50,000, and we're talking about debt, and then this weight is hovering over you, and it's all of this, this worldly pressure on you, and maybe that's where you tap out. And really, it's all unique for every individual, because the same infinite source that's inside of, let's say, Donald Trump, and I don't care whether you like him or not, but at one point in his life, the story goes he was $500 million negative for his net worth. So in other words, he was doing really well. And just like every entrepreneur on the planet, entrepreneur journey is a swing, okay? You're not always up as an entrepreneur. I'm sorry, but that's just not the way the ebbs and flows of the universe work, okay? The tide goes out, the tide comes in, all right? And so you got to learn how to ride the ebbs and flows, and it really comes down to where you put your attention. And so I created a prescription, and I want to tell you how I came up with this. Yes, the tithing absolutely is a hedge. Tithing, the reason why you tithe is to break the back of fear off of your life once and for all. Tithing does a supernatural thing for you. Tithing is for you. A lot of people give some of these pastors dirt because they fly around in $50 million jets, and they have not just one, but maybe 37 of them, and they live in 35, 70,000 square foot houses, et cetera, et cetera. I personally don't have a dog in the fight. I could care less. I know that prosperity is infinite. Myself personally, I don't spend the tithes that come into my ministry on buying myself, cars and houses, because I just don't feel that that is what it's intended for. But if let's just say There is a minister I know that has $100 million plus, and he lives, on a fractional percentage of that. So, it is what it is. I don't judge. I don't care, because the minute you condemn prosperity, the minute you condemn anybody's prosperity, you've also condemned your own. So just keep that in mind. So when you're looking at the guy on the TV and you say, that guy's a swindler, he shouldn't be having all that nice stuff and living off the backs of all those poor people, et cetera, et cetera. Just remember that when you cast a judgment on anybody, that judgment comes back on you. So I keep my dog out of the fight. I have my personal preferences, and I prefer to live a certain way, and that's just me, and you can have yours too. So yeah, energy flows where your attention goes, absolutely. But we really want to address the fear. There's so much fear out there regarding finances. Now, you guys are not afraid to go out and give 1,000 hugs a day. If I said to go out and give 1,000 hugs a day, you might be afraid you'll run out of time before you get it done. But if time were infinite and you had all the time in the world and you just walked around a room and gave hugs and hugs and hugs, is there ever a moment in your life that you become afraid that you're going to run out? Chances are probably not, right? So why do you feel afraid that you're going to run out of money? I'll tell you why you're afraid. Because money is the God, small g, money is the God of this world. And to worship that God, which is what everybody on this planet practically does, is satanic. That is the love of money. That is the root of all evil. That is the satanic curse that you are under. And that's the world of Babylon. It is the debt-based slave system. So what are you going to do about it? Well, the first thing is, yes, tithing is saying, listen, this money is, not you, God. I represent my unity with God. God, I will give you what belongs to you, and I'll let you bless me. I let God bless me. God is in control. When you realize that God is in control, and you step into that faith and you learn how to surrender from that place of being in the world, that's when you actually become prosperous. That's when you are prosperous. That's the consciousness Jesus had. It never talks about Jesus having $500 million stored up in the bank anywhere in the Bible. It never talks about Jesus being poor either, because every time he had a need, he demonstrated it on demand, in the moment. Jesus demonstrated in the moment every need, because he knew that his Father that was in him was all sufficient to supply every need, and that there was no such thing as lack in God's presence. Now, once you get that, once that makes sense to you, once it actually affects your five senses, is what I mean, that's when you have a revelation. That's when the game changes for you. So for me, I've been at this for over a decade, so I've gotten to a certain point, but you have to understand, it all comes down to, where do you tap out? When is enough for you? When do you get too scared? When is the fall too far? Let's say you start a business and you want to build your business, and all of a sudden, it's $100 to go test some words on Facebook. Are you afraid? Are you afraid to put that $100 out? Is that the only $100 you have? Well, think about the hugs. Now, if Facebook said we want 100 hugs and we will run this ad for you, and if this ad is successful, you'll get back, hopefully 200, 300, 400 hugs back. But if it's not successful, thanks for the hugs. Well, you wouldn't say, well, that's it. I'm bankrupt. I'm out of the game. I ran out of hugs. It's over. But your mind says that about money, and that's the problem. And that is the problem. That's where you have to break that curse off of your life forever. Because God is all in all, and God supplies every need. Every need is supplied by God in the moment that it is needed. All right? Now, that's because God doesn't know anything about lack. God is spiritual, never material, and God never created anything other than itself. God is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. So there is no other thing outside of God, and God knows nothing about any lack. The only thing that knows anything about any lack is ignorance. And ignorance and doubt and Satan and this world of Babylon are all one and the same. So to disconnect yourself from the Babylonian system and to live like Jesus did in the Christ consciousness is to be in the present moment, every moment of your life, taking no thought for your life. And so what do you do with that? Well, you can read the story. It's Exodus 14 if you want to read a story about it in the Bible. And sometime I'll parse that out for you and I'll tell you exactly what it means symbolically, but just read the story from the five senses and you can get that interpretation. But I want to talk about the breakthrough that I put here, and I posted this. It's Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Now think about this. Every time you have a financial lack appearing in your life, who's going to fight for you? Do you want to trust this little computer up here that's creating the problem? This creates the problem because it's afraid of lack. So it creates lack because it fears lack. Again, your ego is not you, and it creates the 666, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. That's the thinking computer from the human perspective. And that births the fear of lack, which is an abomination to God, because when you fear lack, you are honoring Satan. When you fear lack, you are honoring Satan. And dishonor equals loss. So when you dishonor God by honoring Satan, you get to experience the very loss, the very thing that you fear comes upon you. So you need a prescription for fear. So before I read the prescription, you guys can take a look at it. And I call it Fear Addicts, 12 Steps to Recovery. And I'm serious, because I talk to so many people. And what I want to say is, where do you tap out? I mean, in the beginning, when I started tithing my money in the beginning, and when I started living by prosperity laws, it's not just tithing, it's letting go of fear. It's trusting, it's being in the present moment, following your highest excitement in every moment. Again, following your highest excitement in every moment, not judging. I don't judge. I don't want to judge, because it's not about them. It's about me and me, okay? Because I'm the presence, and so are you. I don't look at somebody outside of myself and say, hey, there's a problem there. Because if I do that, then I become that problem. So if I do that, then I catch myself and I say, that was really stupid, Matthew. Don't do that. That creates that in my life. So we don't want to be the problem. We want to come as the solution in the world, in God's presence, and be fearless. We are commanded to be fearless because God hasn't given you a spirit of fear. So if God didn't give you a spirit of fear, then where did you get this fear of poverty from? Where did you get this fear of running out of money from? Where did you get the fear that you could ever run out of money? You got it from the programming, from the media, from the minds of adulterated people that were born in the world of the five senses in the Luciferian Matrix program, because that's what it is. It's a fallen state of deception. And the whole time, the scriptures have been saying the easy way out is in the present moment, in the presence of God, following your highest excitement in every moment, okay? Taking no thought for your life, but being in the joy of the Lord, that is your strength. And when you are in the present moment, it says the Lord will fight for you. And if the Lord fights for you, then you really can't lose. So how would you like to play a game where you can't lose? That's what I'm inviting you to do. That's what I'm offering you the faith to do. You see, you and I watching this, we're going to make a faith connection. So the reason that I stepped into doing ministry is because I understand God's nature, because I've experienced it. So my experience gives me that wisdom. Okay, not my theory, not my, hey, I read this and it could be true. No, I'm saying I've experienced it for 10 plus years. All right. And nobody had a bigger doubting Thomas up in their bean counter than me. Okay. I was afraid of everything. When I started, I was so poor that having a cup of coffee used to be the highlight of my day. If I could afford $3 for a cup of coffee, I was rich. That's how I started. And now today I can give tithes in the 6-figure range. Okay. Now people say, well, I don't want to tithe. Well, then don't. I don't care. You do it your way. Do it your way. But if you're not going to do that, then at least remember that you're going to have to do something to supplant your innate fear that you were adulterated into as you grew up into this Babylonian system. The only way that I know how to get out of that system is through God's, way of tithing, because that's the way that's commanded in the Bible. It's the only way I know. If you know a better way, then do it your way.
Listen, there are two types of people in this world. People who believe they can and people who believe they can't. I'm pretty sure you already know who I am. You see this, MOCAINE. This is my secret. Probably you never heard of it because you are swinging around your local coffee shop and congregate with the sheep. Bah, bah. What's wrong with you anyway? So what you waiting for? Go on MOCAINE.com and little Tony will ship you some little baggies, risk-free, to try out. You should be killing it. You should be living like me. You should be living like me. But you ain't, right? You're missing this. This is the secret. This is the fuel to complete your mission. I'm putting powder all over the streets. I don't want to hear any more excuses, okay? You work for me now. I want you to be my customer. Go on MOCAINE.com and do the MOCAINE Miracle Morning. I'm not gonna ask you again.
But let's talk about fear. Let's talk about what happens when you see the appearance of lack in your world. I saw this great, I don't know if Casey's here. I can't see the names on here, but Casey posted on my Name the Fear 21-day process about how he saw an overdraft in his account today. And you see, this is the hand of God. This is how God works. Because when God's trying to show you something outside of the 5 senses to prove to you that God exists outside of your 5 sense, reality, God will do something like this. And what'll happen is you will see an overdraft and you'll say, oh, the fear will come up. Now, that's your choice. When you decide to honor fear, you are worshiping Satan. When you decide to honor fear, you're worshiping Satan. Again, if you decide to honor that fear that arises up within you when that temptation of lack suggests that it is real to you, you are honoring Satan. Now, instead of that, what Casey did was he trusted. He went about his day and experienced, a miraculous phone call that he didn't advertise to receive this client that actually brought an all sufficiency of income in to clear the overdraft. You see, God can show up in any way and every way possible outside of your logic, usually most of the time, to prove to you that your logic isn't it. Your logic ain't it. That's the whole point. You have to come to the understanding that if you think this has all the answers, then you'd already have all the results. If you think that your thinking is it, then how come you still have 1,000,001 problems according to your thinking? God doesn't have any. God doesn't have any problems, but this has 1,000,001 problems. So which one is the real you and which one are you giving your faith to? All right. So now, yep, I'm looking at the comments here. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about. Let's see. That's right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You want to do that. And yep. Let's see. When you condemn anyone's prosperity, you condemn your own indeed. Absolutely. You do not want to condemn prosperity because all prosperity comes from God, period. You know, even the Rockefellers tithe. I can show you the quote on the internet. Just look up Rockefeller tithe. They're not stupid. You understand? And, you know, I have people that tell me, well, Jesus never tithed. Why should I? I don't care. I don't have a dog in your fight. I can only tell you my wisdom, and your wisdom is your wisdom. My wisdom's my wisdom. But when I started my process, you know, what I think is so unique about what I share is that when I started my process, I had nothing. I had no talents because I was very, very ill and weak, and I thought I was really old, and I had all these excuses like most people do. But here's the thing I discovered is that God does not have limitations in providing for you just because you think you're too old or you're too young or you're too, you know, this or that or less than. All of the less than things that your mind tells you about you, that means nothing to God. God is no respecter of persons. And when you understand that God is no respecter of persons, then all you have to say is, well, then what does it take to get blessed? What does it take? I just want to be blessed. Well, God's nature is blessing and increase. Okay? I can show you that in the Bible too. God's nature is blessing and increase. That's God's nature. Okay? So God is always increasing and God is always blessing, and the full blessing is already poured out. There's nothing you can ask for. There's no circumstance in your life that could ever come up that God doesn't know about. So it's ridiculous to be like, oh God, please, 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 help me, please, 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 please. I understand that comes from the five senses, and that's okay. That's okay to do that because the five senses are going to trip out when you're scared. But the real prayer is demonstrating what is already here. That's what manifesting means. It means to demonstrate what is already omnipresent. God is omnipresent, eternally, right now, right now. The space between, every time I say that, just put your attention on that space, right now, right now, right now. That space between, you come into that space. God is the space. You come into the space and you become present to the present where the full blessing is already poured out. And when you become more present, you become less unconscious. Your mind is unconsciousness. It's fear-based. And the only decision you have to make, like Mabel Katz said last episode, is if you're going to trust or if you're going to go ahead and take thought for your life and eat of, you know, the apple from the tree of, you know, the fruit, you know what I'm saying? The forbidden fruit. Are you going to do the forbidden fruit? So again, here's what you do. When the appearance of lack comes up, this is what you do. Okay, look at what I wrote here, and I'm going to tell you where I got this from. Okay, there's an amazing man, and Dr. John Sarno, he passed away, but he wrote a book called Healing Back Pain, and he demystified all sorts of back pain. And he talked about, you know, how the back was, you know, basically miraculous, and that he had these 12 things that you would read, his 12 statements. And I did it on my back pain, the worst back pain I ever had in my life, and my back pain was gone in like 2 days. And I'm talking, I was incapacitated like you wouldn't believe. Me and about probably 10, 20,000 other people that read that book, probably 50 or 100,000 actually. And so I looked at it and I thought, what did he do? How did that work? And I figured it out. You see, Phineas Parkhurst Quimby discovered in the 1800s that all disease was the result of belief and fear. Belief of the disease and the fear of it. And you know what? Poverty and lack is a disease too. So the belief of poverty and the fear of poverty are the poverty and the lack. So what Dr. John Sarno did is he had this clever way of demystifying it. And he said, instead of calling this back pain, like what I always thought I thought I had scoliosis. And I thought that I lived under the spell of that belief my whole life, similar to how people live under the spell of, oh, we better not go out and try to get ahead. It's just not for us. We're not the rich type of people. That kind of money's for greedy, evil, people that want to step on other people. You see what I'm saying? So I lived under the spell that, everybody in our family's got these bad backs. We got curves in our backs. And you know what? That spell haunted me my whole life until finally it hit a peak. And eventually I ended up on the floor in excruciating pain. And, sure enough, the chiropractor said, it's the scoliosis, it's finally come due. That thing finally took you out. I've been telling you it's going to take you out for squatting your whole adult life. Told you not to do that, right? So he looked at the body from a completely physical point of view. And, he said, well, see the structure, see it? That's why you're in such pain. Okay, so I read Dr. John Sarno's work and I was pain-free in less than 3 days. Pain-free. And you know what was even better than that? Because it completely destroyed the belief that the scoliosis meant anything. I knew that it wasn't that. Dr. John Sarno gave me a new explanation. He brought death to the old 5 sense understanding that it was scoliosis, and he brought life into the 5 senses that it was called mild oxygen deprivation through tension myositis. So he gave it a name, right? He said it's basically suppressing emotions, distracting my attention away from emotions to give me pain. And he said, you don't have to fear it. Just go back to your activities and know that it's just fear. And so what he did is he destroyed the belief in the disease and he destroyed the fear of the disease. Boom, there it is right there. That's right. So if you destroy the belief and you destroy the fear, you destroy the very thing. If you destroy the belief and you destroy the fear, you destroy the very thing, because the thing is the belief and the fear. Okay. So what I did is I took that structure he did and I looked up scripture and I put it into the same structure. I used the same structural component and we just looked up how to kill this thing called lack once and for all. So if we look at this, I started by saying fear is a spirit, because in the Bible it says fear is a spirit, and fear comes after the broken heart. So in other words, everybody goes through a perception of, oh, they don't love me, whether it's somebody you dated and then they dumped you like cold, and they just, or your parents, maybe they just didn't give you enough time and attention. So at some point you made a distinction, a perception in life, and you said, they don't love me. And the minute you did that, you, through that judgment, basically have separated yourself from receiving the full blessing of God, because that's when the spirit of fear came into your life. Dr. Henry Wright of Be in Health Ministries talks about that, and he's also amazing too. He is very on point. He's medically trained as a doctor and also as a pastor, and he has a 90-some% success rate in resolving a lot of chronic illnesses by using scriptural understanding. And then he backs it up with his medical understanding and tell you what goes on in the body. But he talked about that fear is a spirit and fear comes after the broken heart. And he talked about how that ties in with allergies. It ties in with all sorts of these autoimmune conditions, etc. Okay, anyway, what we know about that is that whatever you fear, you attract and you bring it into your life. So be honest with yourself. At what point do you tap out? If I said, hey, if you have $1,000 in debt right now, let's talk about the overdraft. If you had a $500 overdraft, would you tap out? Just put a yes in the screen if you would, or put an N if you wouldn't. Like I'm saying tap out as in, would you have a panic attack? Would you get scared? Would you go into a frenzy? Just put a yes or no in the chat box. Or if you don't want to, don't do it. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I'll tell you where I'd tap out. because everybody has a certain level of fear we have to slay. All right, so I see an N come in. Good. No, good. Okay, how about if you got a $5,000 overdraft? Okay, good. There's an honest person. Yep, I'd panic. All right, so here we go. See this guy's right here? Panic. Okay, so tapping out at 500 with the panic. When I started, if I went 50 in overdraft, I mean, when I started this journey, I would have panicked at 50. And then that extra 35 they kick on there, I would have freaked out. I mean, I would have like freaked out. And there were times in the past when I had like 7 or 8 of those in a row, because little $1 or $2 charges would all come through, and it was ridiculous. All right, so now what about this? Would you tap out? Would you tap out if they repossessed your home, if they took it away from you, like your place that you lived and your car? Imagine they took everything away from you. Would you tap out? Like they just showed up and seized your property. All right. So somebody said, I had 400K in debt and that scared me. Okay. All right. Now I like to use the story of Donald Trump because he was $500 million in debt, and he turned it around. But anyway, any overdraft major trigger? Yeah, of course. So here's the thing. Your blessing is your curse, and your curse is your blessing. Now, do you want to know the advantage I have over probably most all of you? Every one of you, I have an advantage over almost all of you. Not every one of you, but here's my advantage. When I had the Lyme disease, and I didn't make the car payment for 18 months, I managed to keep that baby for 18 months after that car payment. I couldn't work. I mean, I wasn't trying to steal the car, but I mean, legitimately, I wanted to have the car, and I figured I paid mostly interest payments on it for 3.5 years. So what the heck, I kept it. And one day they showed up and they just took it. And then I found out that they took the house. So they took my house and my car. So I had no house, no car, and I had no more bank accounts because I ended up going to the bankruptcy. And so when I went through all that, I realized that it didn't mean anything. It was like a panic attack. It was a panic attack. That's all it was. If you've ever had a panic attack, and then eventually you come out the other side and you get over panic attack syndrome, or whatever you call it, you realize that the panic attack was nothing, because it goes away. It's gone. But while you're in the middle of it, it's more real than anything. Well, while we were losing everything, I was having all of these tapping out experiences, like, please God, stop, please, I can't take anymore, I can't take anymore, I can't take. And what was happening? It was stretching and stretching and stretching and stretching me, because I was facing all of those fears over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And then eventually it got to the point when we were sitting in the attorney's office at the bankruptcy, and she was like, I can't believe how calm you are. She's like, you basically just lost everything, and you're like almost 30 years old or whatever. And she's like, you're like laughing. And I said, I just don't care anymore. I just don't care. I'm like, I'm still here. And I realized that it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. You see, the God of this world is money. And when I realized that the God of this world was a very bad master, it was a very bad master, I was free. I was free. And you know what I did? I turned my whole attention to the real God. And I said, you know what? I need to get serious with God. I started tithing, and I started really believing in faith that God would guide me to heal me. I started really believing that I could, I could get better and better and better and better. And because I put all of my faith in God, because of that, and I had the courage fearlessly to step into my highest excitement in every moment, regardless of the fallout. You know, even when the store was going down and sinking and I had taken over the store, you know my story, I wasn't scared. And you know what happened? God met me in that fearless place with a six-figure idea that turned that around instantly. You see, why did that happen? Because I wasn't scared. I didn't honor Satan. I honored God and not Satan. When you understand what I just told you and you realize that the miracle is contained within that story I just gave you, and you have the faith to apply that, and you break the back of that fear off of your life once and for all, and you realize that there is no such thing as lack ever existed in any part of the universe, you become fearless, unafraid to lose it all, because you know that that's a ridiculous idea. And once you're unafraid to lose it all, you are free at last to gain it all. So you might want to watch this transmission maybe once or twice or until you get it. But you do have an exercise. And the exercise is that whenever fear tempts you in the form of a perceived lack, remember, there is no lack, there's just the perception of lack. You read these 12 statements. So I'll read them to you now. And you put this, like, write it in handwriting, okay? Or print it out, keep it with you. And when you feel afraid, just read it from number 1 through 12 and understand what you're reading. So number 1, lack is worry, not a fact of omnipresent God. Number 2, the direct reason for experiencing lack is from the self-care sin caused by human pride. Number 3, lack is non-existent. It's a condition experienced by the 5 senses caused by my putting trust in fear. Number 4, the principal fear is that I'm supposed to take thought in figuring out how to provide for my own needs. Number 5, lack exists only to distract my attention from the fact that sin, worrying, and doubting is separating me from the blessing that has already been poured out. Again, your blessing is already here now. Number 6, since lack doesn't exist, there's nothing to fear or worry about. Number 7, therefore being present and following my highest excitement in every moment is safe. Number 8, and according to Exodus 14:14, I need only to be still, present, and the Lord will fight for me. Number 9, I will not be tempted by my human perception. Fear and doubt are sin, and I refuse to honor Satan. Number 10, I will shift my attention to honor God, standing on the promise that the Lord will fight my battle. Number 11, I therefore lean on God's word in faith, okay, and not my own thinking that wants to worry in sin consciousness. And number 12, I must think spiritual at all times, recognizing I never had a 5-sense human material life outside of God's presence. So there is no need to self-care and to worry at all. That's honoring Satan. So I resist the devil and he'll flee. And as you keep doing that, you will break the spine of the mind's automatic jumping in every time, let's say you see an overdraft. What are you going to do? You see, circumstances don't matter, only state of being matters. So you're going to change your state of being, and by law of consciousness, the circumstances will then finally change. So if you don't have money, it means you're afraid. You are worshiping Satan in fear, because there is an infinite supply of money out there. Money abounds. And I mean, money is infinite. And you know where you get money? From the storehouse inside of you of the infinite source of consciousness, ideas. Ideas are infinite, and God is omniscient, which means that there's only really one mind. So if you don't think you're smart enough, that's another sin. There is only one mind. God is the only presence, the only mind, and the only power. That same one power, one mind, one presence, when I dropped the fear in that store, I wasn't afraid. Everybody said the store is going to go bust and you're done. You see, the average person would have probably stroked out or had a heart attack because they're so afraid. I already went through all that. God already stretched me to the nth of all that fear, and I realized there's nothing there. It was all baloney anyway. There's nothing to fear. Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing to fear. Nothing that ever could happen. It was all just a big smoke screen, a paper dragon. And so when they said the store's going down, you're done, I went out in the back room and I was like jamming the chords and I was playing the scales. You know what I mean? I was in my joy, because that's honoring God. I'm God's expression. God didn't give me a spirit of fear. I did not honor Satan. So as I did that, God meets every need and doesn't need your human mind to get in the way anymore. So as I'm doing that, I clearly felt the presence of God. Just boom, this idea popped in my head. You see, the only thing God did in the Bible was speak. So what happened was I'm playing the guitar and I got it. It just lit me up like a Christmas tree. I got this idea and I immediately acted on it. I didn't think, what's this for? You don't think. I don't think, I just do. So I went and I just did it. And the very next day, I made a video on YouTube. I dominated. By the grace of God, I was #1 on YouTube that night, the same day I put the video up, and it stayed up there for 3.5 years. No advertising cost, nothing. My first 3 companies I built didn't have any advertising costs, and they brought in millions of dollars. That was by the grace of God. That was God's hand. You see, I was in this vortex of fearlessness because I knew that there was nothing to fear. And that was what brought all of that prosperity back into my life. And it brought tremendous prosperity. I'd never seen prosperity like that before. Trust me. I was just average income, working class, slave consciousness, Babylonian cog in the matrix. And then I woke up and, I got fearless. And once I got fearless, God blessed me. God blessed me when I stopped sinning, which means I became fearless.
I'm Chris with Complete Essentials. Do you want to feel your best every day? Not sure what vitamins or supplements to use? Minerals are the currency of life. Minerals are the most important fuel our bodies require. Without minerals, vitamins cannot work. Shockingly, most people are deficient because our food supply lacks what we need. Discover the fuel your body needs to get moving again and reap the life-changing benefits. Our free Mineral Secrets course, Monotomia, is the answer. Health means everything, so go to monotomia.com and get the info now.
So that's what's standing in your way. That's the real problem, is fear. That's it. That's what you got. You got a fear problem. You don't have a money problem. You got a fear problem. So that's what I wanted to say. All right. So be still and be present. Looking at the comments, put in some questions if you have some questions. And I've got a few minutes here to answer some questions. And here we go. I'll post some of these comments. When you face the fear, you become fearless. Exactly. You don't run from fear. You go through it. You go right through the other side. Someone said, what's the name of that YouTube video of yours? You know how long ago that was? That was back in 2010. That video is long gone. I sold that channel with the company, and those videos have been long gone. So, all right. Someone says, how often? Yeah, we're not going to do that one. Let's see. What else we do? So convicted. Thank you. Good. I'm glad, because you know, I can speak from experience. I only speak from experience when I'm talking about these things, because that's the only thing that actually matters. Ideas don't mean anything until you prove those ideas. And oftentimes people go out and they share all these ideas, and you got to be able to discern, like, is this idea coming from a place of experience, or is this just like a pipe dream? And if it's experience, then it has wisdom behind it. And if it has wisdom, it can be universally applied. So, you know, that's the power of wisdom. Wisdom is really a universal thing. All right, let's see what else we got here. It says, Joelma wants to know what you mean by acting on your highest excitement and is afraid of the consequences. Well, okay, look at the words right there. Afraid of the consequences. That's a sin. All right, that's sin. That will block your prosperity right there. Why would you be afraid as a child of God to live in the kingdom that God provided for you in the Garden of Eden? That means you go and you eat the forbidden fruit if you're afraid of the consequences you took from the tree of knowledge. That's a sin. You see, why would you be afraid when God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient? What's going to happen? Your mind is the only thing that's going to happen. So there really is no fear. We all struggle with some level of fear. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not perfect. I'm still in a body. And as long as you're still in a body, you're not perfect. But that's the point, is that the more you slay that fear, the more power you express. And the more power you express, see, God is omnipotent, which means all the power in the universe. You become more God-like, because God is nothing to do with fear, nothing at all. God tells you not to fear. God commands you not to fear. God commands you not to fear. Let's make it a little stronger. So, all right. Well, let's see here. I'll look for one more question, and then we can wrap this up on time tonight. And let's see. Well, it looks like that's it, guys. Well, I hope you got something out of this. Again, watch this again, because I'm speaking at you from a level of different consciousness, because it's not just my babble words. I'm conveying to you a certain level of assurance that you're going to be okay if you trust God and you start to live in the ways that God says that you should live. All right. Now, here's the other thing. I just want to leave you with this. Okay. People say, well, okay, well, fine. God says there's no lack, but you know, I'm not happy just, you know, paying my bills. I want to be rich. You want to be rich, right? Well, God's rich. So here's how you do this. You want to have more money? Then understand this. Your vision, okay, determines your provision. Your vision determines the level of provision you receive. So if you have a consciousness that's only big enough to contain, you know, the image of your world that you have like stepped into, and you can see, like, if you only see like, God, the richest people I know make 100K a year. That's your vision. That's all you see. That's all you comprehend. Well, then that determines your provision, your limits of provision. So you're going to have to become aware of another level of reality in order to manifest and demonstrate enough provision in that reality for you to contain that as well. That's why they say, you should have the average of your 5 closest friends to be at least, probably 5 to 10 times higher income than you if you're trying to shoot for that type of a goal. So, that there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, realistically, there is so much truth in that. These days, I find that, I can break the 7-figure mark. I've done it, 3 out of the past 8 years. 6 figures is pretty simple. And that's because the consciousness is so used to that for me. But if I really want to go and I want to do scaling it up, I'm going to have to physically, either physically move somewhere like to, a place where the consciousness is so heavily endowed with that prosperity, like people are having that much prosperity, or I'm going to have to recruit in level of mentorship where people are doing 8, 9, 10, 11, 8, 9, figures, seriously. And those universes are out there. Now, you can obviously tell that my main motivation and concern in life is not really money. Otherwise, that would be exactly what I'd be doing, because I'm one of the most motivated people that you're ever going to meet on this planet. I never stop. So that's kind of like the thing. But my real motivation is spiritual transformation. And that's really what I do. But part of that is money. I never want to discount money because money is important. So money is very, very important, and you should demonstrate it, and you should have plenty of it to spare and share, because that's prosperity. Prosperity is having what you need when you need it to do what you need to do. Okay, that's what prosperity is. And the ability to lend and the ability to spare and share is prosperity. The willingness to borrow, the willingness and the neediness to borrow can get you in trouble. And that's what I don't want you to be in that position, because that position brings slavery. It's all about freedom at the end of the day. So awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Glad you guys came out. Love you. And all right, you received the book today. There we go. Thank you so much. You're welcome. All right. You guys take care, and message me in the chat box, and I'll keep responding to you. God bless. Hey, it's Matthew David. And before you go, I want you to get a free copy of my #1 international best-selling book, Ask Until It Is Given. And here's why. I teach a process called the Safe Touch Technique. And what it does is it helps you eliminate the very thing that repels prosperity, guilt, shame, and unforgiveness in under a minute. It's called the Safe Touch Technique. It's in the book. And stick around and watch the webinar, because we have a workshop called the Spiritual Millionaire Workshop, and it is the ultimate transformation. So if you get some of this material and you put it to practice, you'll find that it works for you. And when you want to go all the way, come to the workshop and you'll get a lifetime set of skills that can keep you at the top of your game for the rest of your life, no matter what industry you're in. Check it out, and I'll see you on the webinar.